Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau has invoked the Emergencies Act.
Those people have gone from protesting and disagreeing with those measures to limiting and blocking the freedoms of their fellow citizens, hurting jobs, hurting lives and livelihoods, endangering public safety, weakening our country not just right now.
2 weeks. 2 weeks of the protests with more than 400 trucks blocking the supplies into 4 major provinces in Canada that include British Columbia, Ontario and Manitoba. Justin Trudeau has said that we have to invoke this 1988 Canada Emergencies Act, which has never been invoked before, in order to quell these protests. They say karma keeps an account. और वो ledger में balancing, it will always happen. And karma has come back to bite Justin Trudeau. So let's start with what the trolls are saying. He's being trolled across the world by nationalists, right-wing nationalists, and also those who did not like him meddling into another nation's affairs, especially with India. Remember the farmer protests? There he was trying to advise India as to how everybody in a democracy, in a vibrant democracy, the right to peaceful protest exists.
Canada will always be there to defend the right of peaceful protest. We believe in the importance of dialogue.
But when it happens in your own backyard, what is Mr. Trudeau doing? That's what people are asking. There are plenty of memes, a lot of them. One of my favorites is the one where he's shown trying to egg a tractor on, saying, "Go ahead, I'm with you." And now he's being chased by a truck and he's got to make his way out. So there are people saying, you said you egged on tractors on the streets of India. Look, the trucks are chasing you now in Canada. But that's the reality. Nations or leaders, when they are immature or when they succumb to appeasement, then they make strategic mistakes. What Justin Trudeau did was try and appease to the Sikh constituency in Canada. His ally in government, Jagmeet Singh of the Socialist Party, is known to be a Khalistani sympathizer. This is something which has been communicated to the Canadian government. But he continues to pander to Jagmeet Singh. The other aspect, more than 40% of the truck business in Canada is controlled by Sikhs. So they are a very, very strong lobby. Justin Trudeau didn't realize when he tried to back the protests in India that one day that very group could turn around and resist something that was just. As a nation's Prime Minister, India has been far more measured, and Prime Minister Narendra Modi has been very, very measured in the approach to these protests. India has refrained from making any official comment. Why? Because what Justin Trudeau wanted, the cause was just. He wanted the truckers and he wanted the population, Canadians, to get vaccinated or follow the quarantine rules, which this entire group turned around and said, we don't want to do. So the cause that Justin Trudeau was trying to push was just. But the way he dealt with the protests, that's where the questions are being raised. There are many, almost 50%, not just the opposition of the people, 50% of the people in Canada believe that Justin Trudeau has goofed up. This is absolute mismanagement. Voices within his own government say what he's done is absolute mismanagement. He could have quelled the protests earlier. He has not used all the legal options in front of him before invoking this act. Interestingly, the only other time in peacetime, let's leave the wars aside, in peacetime when emergency act or emergency powers have been activated or used in Canada was at the time of Justin Trudeau's father, Pierre Trudeau, sometime in the 70s, when there was separationist movement and terrorism that was going on in Quebec. So father, son, both of them now have the ignominy of invoking emergency powers in peacetime in Canada, a vibrant democracy. Yes, a vibrant democracy gives you the right to peaceful protest. But what is the intent behind the protest? What is being protested? Is it not the responsibility of a nation's Prime Minister to first understand that before going ahead and commenting? Justin Trudeau jumped the gun and many called him immature when he did that during the farmer protests in India. He failed to recognize that there was an active lobby which deliberately wanted to stoke unrest in India. And this lobby was being backed by those who have secessionist intent against a sovereign nation. So should Justin Trudeau have backed it just so that he gets 3 or 4% extra vote share and support in his own constituency in Canada? That's the big question many had asked Justin Trudeau. And it's come back to bite him. It's come back to him at a time when the realization is that you don't mess with another nation without understanding the crux of the matter. How many other leaders of state turned around and criticized the farm laws? Because they studied the farm laws and realized it's for the greater good. But if there is a small portion of people who refuse to listen, then you have to make sure either you make them understand or somewhere ensure that the protests don't go out of hand. What did Prime Minister Narendra Modi do? He repealed the farm laws in the interest of the country, the laws that he brought in the interest of the farmer. That's the call a Prime Minister of India has taken, while a Prime Minister in Canada has turned around and done an Indira Gandhi. That's the other group. Says he may not have much to do with India, but he surely has a lot to do with Indira Gandhi. Why? Because it was Indira Gandhi who invoked the national emergency, albeit that went on for 3 years. Here Justin Trudeau says that it is only for 30 days. Now here's another clause. The Parliament has to ratify the invocation of these emergency clauses that have been invoked by Justin Trudeau. If the Parliament doesn't ratify it, and that's got to be done within a week, then it's back to status quo. And that means Justin Trudeau has lost the confidence not just of the Parliament but also of the people. That means his government is gone. What is it that Justin Trudeau proposes to do with these emergency powers? He wants to give the police more teeth. He wants to give the federal structure in Canada more teeth so that they can crack down on those payment apps through which crowdsourcing and crowdfunding of this entire freedom convoy is happening. He wants to then get the provinces to invoke laws or implement laws which will be now formulated in order to quell these protests. But here's the thing, many provinces are saying this is wrong. We don't agree with you. In fact, a publication, the Daily Toronto, which is seen to be very, very favorable to Justin Trudeau, has been critical of him for his move, because they believe that he has not exercised all the means available to try and quell the protests in the first place. Justin Trudeau actually fled Ottawa rather than staying back and engaging with these people. Now here's what's happened there too. In these protests and among these truckers, there is also another friction which Justin Trudeau did not realize will manifest. As the truckers, led largely by the Sikh lobby, came out to the streets to say, no, we protest this mandate for vaccination and we'll start blocking the streets. Jagmeet's brother-in-law has actually donated to this cause because they were largely Sikh. But there is a counter white supremacist lobby which has also entered these protests to say we have had enough of immigrants trying to run this country. This country belongs to us. And they have started their counter protests. And that's where things have escalated, saying, you're going to put your trucks, I'm going to put my trucks too. But like I said, 40% of this trucking business is being run by the Sikh fraternity, or Sikhs who have largely migrated from India into Canada. They're the ones running this. And there, even tow truck operators are refusing to move these trucks out. One of the bridges, which is the arterial connection between provinces, very, very critical, has been recently cleared of the protests. But the way Justin Trudeau has gone about his business has caused him a lot of heartache and caused Canadians a lot of heartache. Justin Trudeau is very unlikely to come back into power. And this invocation of the emergency clauses is perhaps the final nail in the coffin for his term or his return, that it's not going to happen. But more importantly, he's lost the respect of the world's largest democracy. The world's largest democracy today has turned around and told Justin Trudeau, learn from us. And most importantly, understand why a nation is doing and its parliament is doing what it's doing. Those laws, those farm laws, were ratified in both houses of parliament and passed by the Parliament of India. And Justin Trudeau failed to respect that. And today, he is now waiting with bated breath whether or not the Parliament in Canada ratifies his invocation of emergency clauses when majority believe he needn't have invoked them. He's done it as an act of desperation. And that means you are not in control. Your immaturity has shown through, your inability has shown through, and many believe his ineptitude has also now shown